Hello YouTubers, this is Ishtiaq. I am a Philadelphia-based photographer, friends call me Ish. I am here to start my own YouTube channel on photography and photo processing. I hope you're going to like it. Here I'm going to share some of the things I've learned over the years and some of the tips and techniques that I use a lot. And to get started with this, I figured we can look at some travel photos. We all take them. We all visit. It's summer. It's the best time to travel. And we take our cameras, it can be our iPhones, it can be our DSLRs, and we come home and we have photos which are not perfect, but the place was so beautiful. Well, if you come home and if you spend some time with the photos you've taken, they can actually bring out the beauty that was in that photo. So what we're going to be doing in this first episode is go through two photos. These were taken by a friend of mine. And what we're going to be doing is just looking at those photos which may look beautiful. Those are beautiful photos to start with, but we can look at them and wonder, how can we go a step further and really make it gorgeous? So that's what we're going to be looking at right now. So let's go ahead and look at a couple of photos, edit those, and see how much we can improve. And for this, today we're going to be using only Adobe Lightroom. As we progress with this channel, we are going to be covering a lot more advanced techniques. So let's get started with the first one.
So here we are inside Lightroom, and we have two photos. This is the first one and this is the second. These were both taken by a friend of mine during his trip to Australia earlier this year. So let's take these two photos and see what we can do to bring out the actual beauty of this place, to try and enhance, because half of the work is taking the picture and the other half is actually processing this and coming up with the best output that you can. So what we are going to be doing is observing the photos at first. The first thing that comes to mind if you're looking at this photo is that the photo is very cool because it was a gloomy day. There's no harsh sunlight or faded light, nothing like that. It's just cloudy, overcast. And what happens a lot of times when you take pictures like this, during days like these, is that it turns out to be very cold. And to do the to fix that, what you can do is you can start off by increasing the temperature just a little bit, and not that much, that becomes artificial kind of, but just a touch, just a touch. You can always press the backslash button on your keyboard to see the before and after as you go. So this was the before, this was the after. So immediately it looks a little more warm. And whenever you're considering warm colors, something that goes very well with it is a bit of magenta. So let's see, let's add some magenta here. Not too much, once again, just a little bit of magenta. So we do that, and then Lightroom has this tremendous thing, this panel, which is organized very well, and it always helps to go through these sequentially. Not necessarily that you have to, but it helps to go through that. So going forward is the exposure. We really don't need to do anything because this is a perfectly exposed photo. There's no clipping. No, if there were, you could always click on these two, and if you had any kind of clipping, you'd see those pixels here. For example, just for demo purposes, let's say we take this and we increase the exposure. You see those red dots? Those are the points that are blown out as I increase the exposure. So let's hit Control Z to go back. So yeah, we don't have any clipping, so we don't need to worry about exposure here. Contrast, let's not touch that yet either. So what we do next is come to this section where you see highlights, shadows, whites and blacks. This, if you go to this histogram here, corresponds exactly with what you have here, in the sense that this is your blacks region, the one over that is your shadows, and after that this is what we call the midtones. Then we have the highlights, and then we have the whites. Now for these kinds of photos, and especially with landscapes, one of the first things you can do as part of your workflow is reduce the highlights. And as you bring it down, you see that more information is revealed, and more, you see more info, more texture here, so that you can see some linings in the clouds, as opposed to if you had it where it was, or if you move to the right, therefore increasing the highlight, you actually lose a lot of detail in the clouds and in the foamy waters here. So we go down so that we have the detail. The detail is always very important. And then with the shadow, again, If we go down, we lose the details in the dark, but as we move to the right, more of the detail is recovered, and which is why it made sense that they called it recovery at one point in time. So what we have now is, with the highlight and the shadows moved, immediately this photo has a lot more information than we had before. So what we can do next is, if we look at this, the information we received or that got revealed, the price for that was contrast, and we lost a lot of contrast here. So if we click on the backslash icon, you see this is where we were, this is where we are right now. So we see a lot more details here in the rocks and, you know, the foamy waters in the sky, but it's just bland. So we need to play a little bit with the whites and the blacks, and then we're gonna go to contrast. Now with whites and blacks, the way it works is that you move these sliders. If you move the white sliders to the right, whatever is white becomes brighter white, and whatever is black, if you move the black slider to the left, what you have is added richness. And well, you can do that. Of course, it is to taste. You know, you can look at this and you say, okay, this is where I feel good. But if you wanted to take a more technical approach, and you know, if you didn't want to have any blown pixels, meaning that you wouldn't have anything that's completely white or completely black, what you do is you hold down the Alt or Option key, and what that does, and you see this throughout Lightroom, is that whenever you hit Alt, you press down Alt, you see different options, secondary options. And here what it does is, as you move along, you see the clippings as soon as they start appearing. Same with the black, you see these have been clipped. So I move a little bit inward, and this is where I am, you know, not too much clipping, so it's definitely a little bit better. Next we come to the tone curve, and there's going to be a whole different episode where we talk about the tone curve and how you can manipulate this. But before we go into that kind of work, the simplest thing we can do is just change the settings here in the point curve. So we see that this is a linear curve, and then we have two other default options, the medium contrast and the strong contrast. So let's try the medium contrast first, a little bit more contrasty photo, go to the strong contrast, even a little bit more. I kind of like this one, and also it looks good on the screen, so let's leave it to the strong contrast. The hue, saturation, luminance, and the color, and black and white, this entire section we'll cover later. Split toning, the same with that. Now with all your photos, what you should be doing is looking at this detail area where you do your sharpening in Lightroom. And what we do is we increase the sharpening amount slider, and when you do this, it's important to stay in moderation, because a lot of times what happens is people push it so far that the picture almost looks choppy, and it is just not, you know, as pretty as it can be. And the same can happen when you're using the clarity slider, which I didn't use, maybe I should, in the presence area. So if you move the clarity just a little bit, it adds that touch of sharpness, and the photo looks good. Same with the vibrance. But with these, the trick is to use this in moderation. Don't go overboard. Don't go for a dramatic, over dramatic. Of course we want drama in our photos, that's the whole point of it, but don't go over dramatic, because it becomes psychedelic. So unless you're consciously making a design choice to do something like that, I don't see any reason to go that way. But here, let's just play with the sharpening, leave it to where it is. And the next thing we need to look at is the luminance, or the noise reduction. And there are two kinds of noise reductions that you can use. One is the luminance noise, and the other is color noise. For photos like these, we use the luminance noise, and color noise comes into play when you have say a picture that you've taken in a very low light condition, where there are those red and green and blue, small pixels, the color noise that you see. So that's where this second slider comes in. But the first one, let's just go with luminance and change this just a little bit. Don't go too far, because if you do, then again it's not going to look nice. So that's the whole point of it. So let's just keep it not too much there, because this photo is good. We don't need to worry too much here. Now when you use this, there's a fantastic trick. Remember, just a little while ago I mentioned that you can hold down the Alt or Option key. So if you I'm going to be pressing here, and there you see that the options are changing. So what you do is you click on this and you move the masking slider, and just like the previous ones, it'll show you the area where it's being applied. So wherever there's black, we are not applying the sharpening, and wherever there's white, sharpening is being applied. So we can keep on moving it until, you know, the sky is dark, much of the water is dark, some parts of the rocks are dark, and wherever you have these defined edges, those are white. So there we have it. You know, the result of these is that your sharpening has been more selectively applied. Moving along, this is very important, but this is a JPEG, so it's not going to be useful. So I'm going to demo this, you know, when I'm working with a raw file later on. Now this looks good enough. I mean, compared to where we started, this was the before, this is the after. This photo already looks phenomenally better. So, well, if we want to close it right here, what we do, it's a good suggestion, is towards the end you use just a little bit of vignetting, and what it does, it closes the photo, and I'm borrowing that term from other photographers, in the sense that it darkens the edges, and when you're looking at this photo, your eyes are immediately drawn towards this area in the middle where you have the light and where you have the best aspects of the photo. So there's that, and that's about it. And if you think that this is enough, you know, if of course you can go, and these are sliders, you can always play around with sliders. The whole point was to give you a starting point to know where you can start and how to use the sliders. So you can do that, and if you're done, the next step is to export. So you can go from File, Export, or what you can do is right click here, and you're gonna have the export. Click on the export, and then you have the options of how you want to export, which format, how, you know, how's the quality going to be, if you want to resize, if you want to sharpen for screen, or, you know, if you want to watermark, anything you want to do. So then you go ahead and export, and that's it. That's the photo done. We can import, I mean not import, we can improve this just a little bit, but we're going to be getting to that later on, you know, by using dodging and burning. So we'll approach that later. But you know, already this is where we started, and in just about 5 minutes this is where we ended. Now during, you know, I mentioned that during the same trip there was another photo, and what do you do when you have, you know, a batch of photos from the same trip? You want to process them quickly, and you want to make sure that there's some level of consistency between those. So to do that, what we want to do is we want to take all the changes that we have made here and apply it to this photo. So to do that, what we are going to be doing is right click again, and you go to settings, and you see copy settings, and what you're going to do is it's check all, everything has been checked. But of course, if we're not going to, you know, we didn't go into local adjustments or cropping, so I'm not going to mention those now. But you know, you copy all of those settings, and then you go to the next photo, right click, settings, and you paste the settings. Now there are a couple other ways of doing it, and I'm going to show those to you as well, as you know, just something to do very quickly. Give it just a second to come up. So there we go. So that's the photo. Just look at this before and the pop that you immediately get in the after. So that's the idea, just a little bit of editing, not too much, and immediately we have a photo that's much better than where we started off. So what we are going to be doing is, let me minimize this. So there, you know, what we're going to be doing is showing two other ways of doing it. So let me undo this. I just hit Control Z, so the settings are not pasted now. So what you can do is you can come here, and if you wanted a keyboard shortcut for this, you hit Command or Control in Windows and Shift and C. So Shift Command C brings up that dialog box again for copying. So you select what you want to copy. Whenever you copy, you can choose you know, check or uncheck whichever ones you like, but be sure to always check the process version, and otherwise it's your choice, you know, just what kind of changes you want to make. So I copy everything, I move to the next one, and I hit Shift Command V, and there I have the setting pasted. Another way of doing is, let's hit Control Z again, and say you have been in this picture. So let's hit the right arrow, we come to the next picture, and then we hit Control Z, and there I have the setting pasted. Another way of doing is, let's say you have been in this picture. So let's say the right arrow, we come to the next picture, and then we hit Control Z again. So let's say you have been in this picture. So let's say the right arrow, we come to the next picture, and here in the corner you see previous. Just click on previous and the settings are going to be pasted, and there you go. So that's very easily, you know, getting one version copied into another one. Well, there's actually yet another way, so let me show you that. Let's undo, well, not undo that. Let's undo the settings. Okay, so we're back to where we started. So if you have this open, so what you do is you select on the first one, you shift and click on the last one. So in this case there's just 2. If we had 10 others, I could just click here on the final one, and then what you do is you click on sync. And when you click on this, the exact same dialog box comes in, and you can choose to synchronize, and whatever is here is going to have the exact same setting. So these are 4 different ways that you can achieve the same thing, depending on, you know, how many photos you're working with or what suits your workflow better. And finally, very quickly, and I'm going to show this in more detail later on, if you want to enhance this photo even further, what you can do is dodging and burning, because the basic idea of processing a photo is to introduce a little more drama, and you can do that with you know, how much light is available and where. And we've played with that, but we did that globally. What we want to do is introduce just a little bit of local adjustment. So for that, we take the adjustment brush. So you click on this, and here there are various kinds of brushes. We choose the dodge, which is lighten, and you know, it just, you know, describes it right over there that dodge is to lighten. And here, as you see, whatever you paint with this brush, it's going to increase the exposure by just a quarter stop. And as we do it, we can have this selected so that we can see the area that we're applying this on. And when you are playing with this, the idea is, and it's a very simple idea, of course it can be more nuanced, but this is, you know, as a starting point, whatever is, you know, bright in the photo, dodge those, so you try to lighten those, and whatever is dark, you burn those, so you want to darken those, and by that you can introduce a little more contrast. So let's go ahead and do that. So we have some areas here, so I'm very quickly just going through these. The idea is that these areas are going to be just a touch lighter. These colors I want to bring out, and so these areas are going to be just a touch lighter, so that whatever else you see will only enhance what's here. So that's it. That's our dodging that we did. And then let's take a new brush. All right, let's take a new brush, and this time use burn. And the idea, as I said, if it's dark, paint over it and just darken it just a little bit. So let's do that here, these areas in the rocks. Again, very quick and dirty work that I'm doing here, but it'll get the idea across. So hopefully, all right. Okay, I think I've covered it all, so let's just keep it there, and that's it. So let's see from the history. Let's go back a few steps before all these brush strokes. So this is where we were, and let me bring this up so you see the whole photo. So this is where we were, and after the brush strokes, you know, the dodging and burning, this is where we came. So you know, immediately, you know, these areas are highlighted just a little bit more, and we can do the exact same thing in the other photo. So we come here, we pick a brush, the burn is selected, so that's fine. So let's take a bigger brush and very quickly just apply just a little bit here, and a touch here as well, because I'm going to be dodging this area, so I want the area around it to be just a little bit darker so that you have that contrast. So yeah, let's not go overboard, let's just do that much for burning, and then go ahead and pick the dodge brush, and there we go, just a little bit. Again, in moderation. You don't need to go overboard. The idea is to keep it subtle because you don't want to see blobs of white and black, because that would look really bad. And of course, once you have it, if you want to make changes for each of these brushes, you have a whole set of options, so you can go there and get that done. So again, let's close it there. So like the other one, let's come back and look at the before and the after. So there you go, just a little bit of change, and that makes all the difference in the world. So you do these. Now for this particular photo, there's something else that we need to fix, and that can be very common. When you're taking travel photos, you may be, you know, just running and gunning, so you wouldn't have enough time to compose or make sure that the scale and everything are fine, so it may be a little slanted. To fix that, we have this option here, to crop the way, you know, the photo in any way we want. So we can have an original, you know, we can lock it to the original aspect, or unlock and change the crop in any way we like. But this is the cool thing that I wanted you to see. So we can always, you know, click here and, you know, adjust the horizon, because in this photo we want the horizon to be straight. So we can do that manually, or something else we can do is have Lightroom do it. So you click on that, and you know, you click on the angle, just draw a line. So click and I drag. So this I want to be my horizon, and there you go. It's been straightened. So there you have it. So that's it. And as you will notice, when we copied the settings, it automatically copied the vignetting and everything. So that takes care of it all, and this is the final version. So I hope you liked it. This, you know, that's what I wanted you to see as I start off this YouTube channel. If you have travel photos like this that you want me to look at, send them my way, and we can have an episode where we go through these, and over time we're going to cover some more stuff. All right, so everyone have a good time. Thank you so much.